There was only one man who ever understood me, and even he didn't understand me. They're said to be Hegel's dying words, at least it's a popular quote, not easy to make sense of, like much of what he wrote. But it's an occupational hazard that once you are finally dead, any useful work you may have done can get turned on its head. And in 1831, when he died, before Mrs. Hegel's tears had dried, his followers on both left and right were engaged in an ideological fight, making directly opposing claims that one of philosophy's most famous names unarguably backed their political aims. The so-called right Hegelians gave particular weight to the fact that Hegel's ingredients for the ideal state were, in their view, on display in the Prussia of their day. Shared consciousness, one harmonious community, the end of history, absolute unity. A conservative, airbrushed vision of Prussia that soon proved to be overblown, though here, for some, the seeds of German nationalism were sown. That legacy apart, right Hegelians didn't last long, unlike the left Hegelians, who just knew the right were wrong. And as shown in a sketch drawn by Engels, their sense of commitment was strong. Also dubbed young Hegelians, these radicals and bright sparks spanned more than one generation, including a youthful Karl Marx. Both right and left had been convinced by Hegel's proclamation that history is on a journey with a positive destination. But under King Friedrich Wilhelm IV, the left found it simply mind-bending to suggest that the Kingdom of Prussia could be humanity's happy ending. With censorship and no signs of reform, it seemed gullible to believe that reason now ruled and freedom would follow. Had Hegel been fooled, his work now seemed hollow, or to be kinder, naive. Hegel's goal of freedom for all faced an existential crisis. History could not be counted on if left to its own devices. Humanity had to take action. The left Hegelians needed a plan, and with his alternative take on Hegelianism, Karl Marx was their man. Germany, France, Belgium, all had given Marx the boot for trying to drive the masses down a revolutionary route. He'd urged the workers to work together to overturn the state in the Communist Manifesto, co-written in 1848 with Friedrich Engels, who took him to London, where Marx at last made his home, and in the capital's British Museum, under the reading room's dome, he worked on Das Kapital, a critique of political economy and what he reckoned would come to pass, called by some at the time the Bible of the working class, and written when he was in great pain due to carbuncles on his arse. Of all the books in history, it's one of the most influential, and in this and the Manifesto, the groundwork of Hegel's essential. Hegel was a mighty thinker, Marx was happy to declare. Just wrong to focus on consciousness when the material world is out there. Marx picked upon the phenomenon that Hegel called alienation, defined as not feeling at home in our minds, an internal dislocation that we could resolve psychologically through mental deliberation. But Marx pinned the blame on the world of work, where alienation means a more brutal disconnection. We're just extensions to machines, with no interest in what we make or do, no interest in our neighbour, potential dashed, self-fulfillment denied by alienated labour. The remedy for alienation can only be a complete transformation. Both Hegel and Marx agree. But while Hegel means transforming consciousness, for Marx it's society. With his dialectical method, Hegel had laid out how consciousness, the Geist, develops as history is played out. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It's a constant evolution, idea and contradiction, argued through to the next contribution. An ongoing self-propelled paradigm, Hegel's dance in triple time, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, always working towards a solution. But with Hegel now dead and buried, this approach to ideas, Geist and mind was hijacked by Marx and repurposed to chart a new path for humankind. Hegel's dialectical method is, in fact, standing on its head. It must be turned right side up again, That's what Karl Marx said. It's the environment around us that shapes all we think and do. Dialectics must be adapted to fit a materialist point of view. Dialectical materialism takes Hegel's pure idealism and replaces abstract consciousness with concrete, down-to-earth realism, showing how forces of nature connect, how conditions and people collide, the outcomes, the syntheses, causes, effect, in the physical world. In every respect, dialectics can be our guide. And while Hegel's rethinking of history as science clearly broke new ground, once again Marx felt it needed a tweak to accommodate his more materialist streak. It's economic activity that makes the world go round. To see history as the journey of Geist was a quaint Hegelian quirk. History for Marx is about class struggle. Who profits and who does the work? So, as Hegel had once described the progress of freedom through the ages, Marx used modes of production to carve up history into 5 stages. Hunter-gatherers, slavery, feudal ties between lord and serf. Capitalism may now hold sway, but once the proletariat get their way, communism will win the day, all equal on this earth. For followers of Marxism, historical materialism analyses history through a socio-economic prism. Throwing market forces into the mix, Marx dialectically predicts capitalism's course of self-destruction, overexpansion and wage reduction, more and more poor, just a few owning wealth, a system collapsing in on itself, building towards a volcanic eruption of mass agitation and social disruption, labour reclaiming the means of production. Through Marx, dialectics turns into a stick of political dynamite. The tide of history is on your side. Workers of all lands, unite. If Hegel's work had been upside down, Marx had now actively gone to town, not so much choosing to turn it around as to radically rearrange it. Philosophers only interpret the world. The point, however, is to change it. Is historical materialism really a science? Does that mean the future is certain? The dogmatic view that this could be true reinforced the Iron Curtain. And the way many Marxist states have behaved, Marx may be spinning in his Highgate grave. Even while living, he saw how disciples can mess with your reputation. "I'm not a Marxist," Marx once complained in a moment of irritation, which, for famous imaginative thinkers, serves as a handy illustration of the unavoidable danger that comes with that kind of occupation. For Marx, for Hegel, for anyone. After death, reinterpretation.